Good evening, and welcome to Clawson's City Council February 6, 2018 council meeting. This meeting is now called to order. As is customary, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing but for the invocation done by Council Member Paula Milan. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening, we seek your wisdom and guidance in directing our thoughts and decisions in matters that affect the lives of the residents, employees, and businesses of Clawson. We thank you for the opportunity to serve this community and do not take our responsibilities lightly. In Proverbs 11, your word states that by the blessings of the upright, a city is exalted. Lord, we are so blessed. Help us to remain righteous in our thoughts and our deeds, and to allow our decisions and conversations to show grace and compassion, remembering that the people are affected by what is determined in these meetings. I pray you will magnify your glory throughout Clawson, ensuring safety, prosperity, and harmony for all. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Please.
Mayor Woolley,
Here.
Councilmember Ayers, here. Councilmember Milan,
Here.
Councilmember Moffitt,
Here.
Councilmember Oberg.
Here.
The first item on the agenda is consideration of approving the following consent agenda. The consent agenda this week contains minutes of a City Council audit workshop meeting held on Tuesday, January 16th, minutes of a regular City Council meeting held on January 16th as presented, a special City Council closed session on Monday, January 2nd, a workshop held Wednesday, January 24th, and several coin-operated businesses looking for license renewals.
Madam Mayor, I move we approve it, consent agenda, as listed with everybody's names on it.
Support.
Are there any questions or concerns regarding the consent agenda? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ayers,
Yes.
Councilmember Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffitt,
Yes.
Councilmember Oberg,
Yes.
Mayor Woolley.
Yes. The consent agenda has been approved by council. The next item on the agenda is a presentation and discussion regarding the National League of Cities Service Line Warranties contract in the city of Clawson. I understand that representatives from the service line warranties will be present to provide updates and information and answer all of our questions.
Good evening, council members. My name is Kurt Karinko. I act as the account manager for Clawson regarding the program. I'm here this evening with my supervisor, Tara Quinn. We came at your request, of course, to discuss some items pertaining to the program. Since the program was initiated about 4 years ago, we have actually saved residents over $114,000 over the course of doing almost 200 claims. As far as residents go, we at this time have just under 1,000 customers that we're providing service to. Some quick updates about the program. Since the program was initially signed, we've had some small changes, but they've all been for the positive. Initially, when the program was signed and brought to Clawson, we had a number of separate coverage caps pertaining to the residents and their service. So if we were to perform a claim on a resident's portion of the sewer line, they had a bucket of $4,000 available to them for that repair each time that they needed a repair. They also had a separate bucket of $4,000 should we need to cut into the street, and an additional $500 bucket in the event that we needed to cut into the sidewalk. About 2 years ago, our company was acquired by a larger company called HomeServe USA, and at that time, we did a number of changes to the policies, including having a unified coverage cap. So what that means now is that residents still receive the same $8,500 worth of coverage that they're paying for. However, we're not differentiating between whether it's in the street, sidewalk, or on the resident's property. The same thing went for the water line product as well. So in the case of a water line claim, a resident has up to $8,500 available to them. So since we launched the program, as I mentioned, we did save residents over $114,000. We have a total of just under 1,200 policies in the city of Clawson, as well as having 14 other municipal partners here in the state. As far as the program goes in terms of marketing, not too much has changed there. We actually use an affinity marketing model where we actually, of course, partner with cities like Clawson to get the communication out to residents, notifying them of their specific responsibility for their lateral lines, and then making them aware that we do offer a program, which is optional and voluntary, should they so choose to adopt it, which can help cover some of those costs. Nationally, we've saved homeowners over $90 million in the course of the last 10 years, and that number just keeps continuing to grow. A couple other quick points. We actually have over 500 partners in the energy and municipal sectors at this point, and just keeps on the up and up. So.
Did you have any questions?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be here with us
Sure.
this evening. A couple questions I had. Do you market in communities who don't partner with you in the same way that Clawson has?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our marketing model, because we have the endorsement of the National League of Cities, is that we will only market in a community if we have the permission and partnership of a municipality. That's good for a number of reasons. The first reason is that we offer an educational piece to the homeowners. So the letter that we put out to the homeowners, all of our partners always have the oversight and creative control over. So the municipality gets to control the messaging, which is nice in a number of ways. The first way is that we're not mass mailing your residents as we see fit. That's a marketing model that was tried in the past. It wasn't effective for us, and it also wasn't good for homeowners. Nobody likes more junk mail. The other thing is, when we have the municipal partnership, we're able to work in terms of whatever your infrastructure goals are and kind of coordinate our message that way. So I've had partners all across the country where if they had a capital improvement plan or some sort of ongoing infrastructure program, we're able to tailor the message in that regard. We do not market to homeowners in the case of communities where we're not having a direct partnership. The reason for that is if we as a company just said, hey, we're Service Line Warranties of America, here's our mailer, take it or leave it, our endorsements, let's say at the National League of Cities, it doesn't hold a lot of sway with an average homeowner. I mean, that's, there's no cachet there. So we partner at the municipal level so that we can create the economy of scale that we need to, so that homeowners can really benefit from the service and we can keep our coverage rich while our prices are low. As far as the program goes, it's very uncommon for us to have a price increase. I like to compare us sometimes to Netflix. So anybody who has Netflix may see that over the course of the years, your prices are, steadily going up. Not a ton, but they are going up over the course of those years. As far as our program goes, it's very unlikely for us to have price increases. And when we do have those price increases, they're extremely marginal. Our program actually has seen costs go down in a number of cities over the course of years. What I mean by that is we had a small decrease in costs here that we were offering to homeowners as we switched to a new customer database. So there was a savings of a few cents a month. Not a huge amount of savings, but any extra money back in a ratepayer's pocket is always a good thing. So sorry, that was kind of the long route home.
No, that's okay.
But to answer your question, we work directly with the municipalities. We only market when we have the municipal approval to do so. It gives you folks the creative level of oversight, and it gives us the opportunity to make sure that we're getting out a tailored, concentrated message to your homeowners that they can rely on rather than, some fly-by-night company.
You probably don't get, it's probably costs you more for marketing, I guess, for your cost per acquisition probably goes up if you don't have the city logo on.
Yeah, on the front end, there's a lot more cost associated with it. So it's good for all parties. It's good for the homeowner. It's good for the municipality, and it's good for the NLC to offer these programs at no cost to their partners.
Sure. How many mail pieces do you send with the City of Clawson seal?
Sure. So each time that we do a mailer, unless we've done a refresh of our database, we're only using the existing mailing list that we have. A mailing list may exist in the system for about 3 years, depending upon kind of response rates. We would send one letter, which is an initial offer letter inside of each campaign, as well as one reminder letter. We send the reminder letter in case, let's say, the resident ever misplaces their letter, or maybe the first one doesn't make it to them, or the dog ate it, something along those lines. And we do 2 marketing campaigns per year. So if we do both of those marketing campaigns, we're talking about a total of 4 letters. And then based on whatever billing frequency the resident chooses, they could get additional billing communications.
Now, per the agreement that we have with you guys, the letters are supposed to be sent to Clawson residents.
Yep.
I spoke with somebody just today who has not had a Clawson address for 3 years, but is still receiving mail to his new address in a
Sure.
different city with the city of Clawson seal on it.
Sure.
Can you kind of describe how that might happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the data side, we have, we're required to run all of our mail pieces through the National Change of Address database. This causes what I would call a mismatch in the letter. The top portion of the letter is what appears in the mailing envelope. The bottom portion of the letter is the actual enrollment portion of the letter. So if I as a homeowner said, yeah, I do want this service, I would mail back the bottom portion in a prepaid envelope. When we're actually preparing a mailing, any data that we have could be up to 3 years old in most cases, unless we've done a refresh. We would then run it through a National Change of Address database. That has some pluses and some minuses. One of the minuses is that if I, as a resident, did previously live in the area and I've never indicated, no, I'm not interested in the service, that top portion of the letter could be updated to my actual mailing address with the USPS. So in some instances, there are a few cases that actually could reach outside of the neighborhood. If that does happen, or there's ever a case where a home has been foreclosed, or the resident has moved, or the property's been demolished, something like that, we can make an update to our database where we just flag the address and then nothing additional is sent. It literally takes 30 seconds and a couple clicks. So if you do have any residents that are receiving the notification, either they don't want to or they shouldn't be, there's a couple ways that we can take care of it. We can take care of it on a case-by-case basis, or I can actually pull the mailing list and go through and do a refresh process.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Kirk, you talk about your marketing process, and when you say marketing, you mean real marketing, right? Like you're only soliciting to these people under our umbrella? Mm-hmm. Now, if Clawson were not to entertain another agreement with you, are your services available to our residents still?
Sure. So those residents who already have service would continue to have their service. It's not something that would discontinue, let's say, in the event that you folks didn't want to continue the marketing practices with us. However, one of the positives of continuing to market with us and have an existing program is that you always do have that level of oversight. You also, in cases where you're working with us in terms of a partnership, if you ever decide that you want to skip a mailing campaign, you have that level of oversight as well. And it's more likely that residents' costs are going to stay down in the program since we have that economy of scale working with the municipal brand. If we as a company wanted to, let's say, mail to homeowners, that was a route that they took in the past. It wasn't very effective. The response rates were super low, and that causes costs to go up a lot more over time. So the benefit really is that you folks always have that level of oversight, and the residents get their costs to stay low so that we can continue to offer a rich coverage.
So yes, I can purchase outside of Clawson's umbrella. Like I have a home in Pontiac.
Sure.
I can purchase in Pontiac, or say Clawson decides to not pursue this any longer. Yes, I can still purchase a policy through you?
Sure.
Is that
So
right?
if Pontiac is a partner, then you could under that municipal partnership. However, if we terminated the marketing agreement and you wanted to purchase a policy afterward, in some instances we may accept what we consider to be a hand raiser. So that would be a person who comes to us and says, hey, I'm interested in service and I fall in a zip code where you once offered service. That person we would consider to be a hand raiser, and they could then enroll. However, we would not directly market under the partnership or anything of that nature.
Yeah, I
going
wouldn't
forward.
worry about the marketing because that's just mail. And if you're me, you put it on the counter, you look at who it's from, and it goes in the garbage, right? Especially if you know what's in there.
Sure.
Are your services still offered? I just feel like it's not a direct answer yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So the services would still be offered to anybody who already has the service.
Okay.
They would continue to have the claim service if they needed it. They would still continue to have the same coverage caps. However, for new customers, that may not be the case.
You will
So-
still provide the services, just perhaps under a different rate. Yes?
Possibly.
Or you will not offer the services? That's
Or-
all I want to know.
Well, it's really up to our upper management.
Okay.
So in most instances, we may not market at all if we have no partnership. That's
Thank you.
correct.
So I guess I'm going to ask it one different way.
Sure.
If I'm a current customer and Clawson no longer has an arrangement with you, and I tell my brand new neighbor that's moved in what a great program it is, and they call you, will they be able to purchase a policy or not?
So if there's no marketing agreement between us and Clawson, if that person's reaching out to us as a hand raiser, they may be able to enroll for services.
They also may not be able to, right?
Yes,
So,
it could be. It really is based upon the city. If you guys want to shut down every future enrollment, then we do that. Or if you guys want to be able to still allow, like web, we can keep the web open for people to go online and enroll, and we can keep the call center open for people to call in and enroll.
Is that with or without the city's endorsement? So if we were to pull our endorsement, people still could go, if we chose to offer it through the web and online, that could still be in place?
That could still be.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Quinn, when you speak, would you mind using the microphone? I apologize. Yeah, sorry.
Sure. Yeah, so those would still be in place. We could keep those without the city endorsement because we wouldn't be doing any outside marketing on your behalf. So that would just be all internal. That would really still be up and available.
So accepting new clients in a municipality is really only based on that municipality's kind of communications with you as to whether or not they want you to continue doing business inside their city. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Where is your headquarters?
Our headquarters is, now that we are overseen by HomeServe USA, they are in Norwalk, Connecticut.
Okay.
And then Utility Service Partners, which we represent under the umbrella, we are located in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And then correct me if I'm wrong, HomeServe USA is then a subsidiary of HomeServe PLC, which is a London-based company, is that correct? And traded on the London stock market?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Mr.
I have, excuse me, I have the service, and I've had it since you guys brought it out, and I'll tell you, it's wonderful. I've had no problem whatsoever, and most people in Clawson that have a lot of trees on their lot, it's a great thing to have. So I gotta commend you guys, do a great job.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know that this will influence your decision, but I do want the public to be aware of something that's significant. And that is generally the water line, it's the owner responsibility from the lead to the house. And in the sewer line in Clawson, the responsibility of the owner is from the house to the connection of the combined sewer, which is in the middle of the road, so it's beyond the curb. There's been a policy that is always the owner's responsibility. I would think if you go with this program, you may want to have a written policy that confirms that, because the policy right now is informal. And why I say that is the language in their document on page 5, which is truly significant. And it talks about the two different connections, but the last sentence is a key. Regardless of these local differences, SLWA will provide coverage for the portion of the service line for which you are responsible. So I think if you have the written policy, that will be enough to really demonstrate to the homeowner that there's coverage in that instance. There was a cave-in on Baker today, and there was a contractor out there who was approved who was making the repair to the center of the line, or to the line in the center of the road.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
I haven't really made it a secret that I'm really against, and this speaks nothing of your company or of your product, I'm against leasing out our seal, our address, our letterhead to a private company or a publicly traded company. And for a few reasons, I do think it cheapens our brand. The weight of our communications could diminish over time as I open up 4 letters per year from the city of Clawson, and they are all, in effect, a sales pitch. Any future communications from the city of Clawson might not make it to the top of my mail pile quite as quickly. I do appreciate that you save our residents a lot of money with your product. I do appreciate that. I appreciate the educational piece that you put in front of people. I really do. I think that's, I don't know that we could or would undertake that educational program, you know, communicating to residents that it is their responsibility. So I do appreciate that. And I do appreciate that you do believe that this is a good idea for us to be in this partnership. And I appreciate that. HomeServe USA, or HomeServe's business in North America, for the first half of their fiscal year in 2018 was resulted in $140 or $150 million in revenue with a profit of almost $15 million. And I'm not, regardless of, I don't care if you're making $15 or $15 million using our city seal. I just don't have a level of comfort with that. I think I might be in the minority on this board, but that's where I stand.
Currently, you market your information, and it has our logo at the top, right? Yours and ours are both on the top. Do you have any other marketing formats that would allow you to change up somewhat? You'd still have the endorsement, but perhaps it wouldn't be given the impression that it's a City of Clawson letterhead type situation.
Yeah, we sure do. There's a couple different options we really can take. So we can continue with that dual logo. We can take your logo off and just write Clawson as a endorser or sponsor, and it's serviced by us. So there's different language that we can use instead of using the logo if you feel like, you know, we don't want to diminish it at all. So that's one way we can do it on the front. It could have our logo and then just, you know, Clawson, endorsed by Clawson, or however you guys would like to say it there. And then on the inside, the letter can be completely from us, so that it just shows, in the language we can use is that it's just a program that is supported by the City of Clawson. So there are a few different options that we could take, and like Kurt said, we want to work with you guys to make sure it tailors your needs and it suits your needs. So there are options that we can take, so, you know, we can take that time to talk to you guys and meet with you guys and figure out what you want in the future and create that now for you.
Thank you.
I think that kind of is the next step. I think that it sounds like the council would like to see some of those options and explore those options. I don't know that a decision needs to be made, but I think that additional information will help us make some decisions in regard to that. So I know that it's been addressed. As the mayor, I really didn't want my signature on the bottom of the letter, which I understand has been addressed. And so I'm trying to find a way that we can have a compromise, that we don't feel that we've sold our city seal for a marketing campaign. So
Yep,
that would be great.
definitely can do that.
Yeah, I think if you just change it around a little bit, let our city attorney look at it, and we'll look at it, and again, because if it's saving our residents money, I'm all for it. But if we just have to rearrange the wording and take our insignia off it, well, so be it then.
Sure.
Anyone else? Does it sound fine with you, Mr. Kingsep?
Yes, and I'm going to assume that administration will develop the written policy.
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll be done.
Thank you very much for
Thanks.
your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thanks.
coming. The next item on the agenda is the public hearing regarding the solicitation of public comments in regard to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. But first, I would like to ask Kathy Leanhouse, our Parks and Recreation Director, to come to the microphone and tell us a little bit about the program.
Good evening, and thank you very much. We are required by the DNR, Department of Natural Resources, to submit a 5-year master plan for Parks and Recreation in the city of Clawson. The main reason for this is if we apply for any of the grants that they offer, they want to see that we have a kind of a plan, like a roadmap, kind of an idea of where we're going, that we're not just pulling things, you know, out of the sky, that we've really talked to our residents. We've looked at what our facilities are, what we would like to see, what the residents would like to see. And so that's really the main reason that we do the master plan. It helps us get input from our residents, helps us take an evaluation of what we already have and where we'd like to move towards the future. However, whatever we put in this, based on what our advisory board looks at, what our survey showed, what the council feels is important, they're all sort of goals. They're not all going to happen. I mean, I would love that they could all happen, but it all comes down to, like everything else almost, dollars. And we know that we have been so fortunate in this city. We got a bond back in 2014 that allowed us to do a number of wonderful things with our parks and bring them up to really good condition. And at our advisory board meetings, we would like to still put a lot of projects in this as potentially out there. You know, if the stars align right and the money comes in, there's a possibility we could do them. But we really want to focus on maintaining what the residents have so graciously allowed us to do with that bond. And that's really the Park and Rec Advisory Board's focus at this point in time. But because of what the DNR requires of us, we do have to look forward to what could happen if we get a lot of money. Okay. So I don't know if you have any questions, but that's just kind of what this is about. And I just want to stress to the residents that, you know, just because you see things in here, please don't think that it's a 100% they're going to happen. It doesn't mean we're just going to throw them to the side either, but please understand that it's a money consideration. And we want to be fiscally responsible with what we have. And as we all know, dollars are tight, and our focus is going to be on maintaining the wonderful facilities we have and taking baby steps to add some more things if we can.
Thank you. Did anybody have any questions for Kathy?
The comments I have, and I just want to put on the table there, is, you know, the page that talks about our compliance with the Americans with Disability Acts at our different facilities. And I have a real concern that there's no talk about, in some of the wish lists or things that we plan to do, there's no discussion of, you know, maybe putting 20% or a certain percentage of the money towards achieving those goals. And I think it's really important that we maintain the, you know, the things that we have, but we need to really pay attention to that demographic in our community that needs some of those special accommodations. And I think we need to really start looking towards moving to incorporate that in some of our decision-making and spending policies.
The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board had a meeting last night, and we went over some of those concerns. And I think that was one of the things that we brought up as well. You know, things like splash pads and all of these large ticket items are wonderful, but the reality is we don't have the funding for that. It doesn't mean we can't include them in our plan, you know, as a potential. But what we talked about last night, we're addressing some of those very issues.
Nice.
Some of the things that we can do with what we have right now. And again, baby steps. We can't make everything perfect, but we can start. And we did discuss that last night. So that will be in the final draft. We'll include some of that.
Excellent. Glad to hear it.
And I also concur.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Well, the public hearing is now open for public comments. When you come up to the microphone, just state your name and your address, please.
Hey, good evening. My name is Matt Cook. I live at 406 Fisher Court. I'll try to keep this brief. I apologize. I'm coming in kind of at the 11th hour here when this is supposed to be approved. I probably should have been more proactive in being involved in some of the discussion groups early on, but this is my last chance to speak, so I'm going to at least voice my opinion. I don't know if this is the right format to ask questions. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask you questions, or is this just a comment?
No, ask your question. We'll see if we can answer them now if we'd have to get back to you.
I
on
guess
that.
as just a general question, as far as McKenna goes, I know the city uses McKenna services to do a lot of planning. Just wanted to know what was their capacity as far as this plan goes? Were they just the administrator to pull the plan, the documents together, and
Kathy may be able to answer that. Or Greg. Sorry, Greg. Greg Elliott here is our city planner from McKenna.
Oh, okay.
So in this, we do different things, but in this case, we just, we facilitated the survey, and then we just did the graphics and formatting for the document.
Okay, so I guess the one thing overall that I felt that the plan lacked, as far as the professional services would be concerned, I saw a lot of information about the existing conditions, the existing parks we have, what the inventory looks like, what the I guess some of the amenities that the residents had in some of the surveys, but there's very little information in the way of professional advice. Something that, maybe McKenna had to offer in their wealth of knowledge. They're the experts in the area. They probably do this for other cities. What is a recommendation from McKenna as far as where the city of Clawson needs to be in 5 or 10 years?
I think part of it is that the city directs them on what our vision is, and then they try to make that happen. I mean, they're the professionals, and there's some requirements that the DNR, as Kathy mentioned, that are required to be in that master plan. And I know the assessment of all the amenities that are around us are required by law to be part of the master plan. Is one of the reasons those are in there.
Okay, I'm just getting some clarification. I'm not criticizing. There's a couple of typo issues in there that I guess probably need to be cleaned up, but I won't waste anybody's time going through that. Did have a question on, because I know there's some mention in here about splash pads. It was brought up multiple times in here. On page 24 of the plan, there's 36 regional recreational facilities that are noted in here, 30 miles, but I didn't see any of the other neighboring cities' aquatic parks, like the Troy Aquatic Center that's right up the road on Livernois is not listed in here as an option. And the only reason I bring that up is if the city is looking towards investing a large amount of money in a capital project like a splash pad, there are alternatives, and they should probably be listed in here. And we, as residents, we have the opportunity to buy, passes to go to that facility. Another question that I had, as far as the survey results go, says there was 456 total responses. Based on the population of Clawson, it comes out to about 3.5% of people. Is that considered a successful survey?
Yes.
In the council's opinion?
It was over 10 times as many as we got the last time.
Really?
So
Okay.
we thought that was pretty good.
Okay, well, and I know resources are stretched thin. Maybe in this case it might be beneficial to, I'd be willing to even volunteer for it, but in a situation like this, maybe we could get a panel together, volunteers that could go door to door and, do some of these random surveys, get in people's houses and talk with them about what their real needs and wants are. The top 5 amenities that were listed here as a result of the surveys were splash pad, community pool, the wood chip trail going to a more user-friendly material, a dog park, and concerts in the park. I think, as a lady mentioned a little while ago, some of these are probably pie-in-the-sky ideas. Community pool is probably rather expensive. But I was a little bit confused because there's a couple of these that did make the action program, the want list, on page 41, but I didn't see the dog park listed on there and didn't see an explanation as to why that was left out. There may be opportunities like with the aquatic center where there's other dog parks in the area that can be used, but there's quite a few people in the city that have dogs, and I read through the comments on the surveys, and there was a lot of comments on dog parks. So that would just be a request from me to maybe take another look at it. Other question that I had is, or comment rather, on the action program at the very bottom of the list is the Hunter Community Center, which is just right down the road from here. This facility, in my opinion, based on what I've seen, and we frequent a lot of the parks in Clawson, probably hands down gets used more than any of the other parks, year-round, every night, from the morning till late at night. And it has some needs with a parking lot. The playground itself is in bad shape. It looks really rough. I think it would probably benefit the city to see that moved up on the list. I think the residents of Clawson that pay a lot of taxes get more use out of that facility from a parks perspective than probably all the other parks combined. I know the city park, it stays pretty busy during the summer, but right now it's a ghost town. And I think prioritizing $150,000 plus, that's just a budget number for a splash pad that can get used 3 times a year and comes with it maintenance and operational costs every year, may not be the right priority. There's also some comment on here for a 3-hole disc golf course. I guess that would be okay. I've seen them before, and you get a lot of people like to drink beer when they're out using the disc golf course, so maybe not. Let's see. I think that's all I've got. Did have one last question on, and maybe this is just a cut and paste table, but there's a table 5 called Recreational Facilities Evaluation for the City of Clawson on page 33. Basically, it goes through and lists different types of facilities and a recommended rate by the National Recreation and Parks Association, recommended quantity of these facilities per population. And I didn't see the dog park, which was on the top 5 list, or the splash pad, which did make it to the amenities list in the plan. I didn't see either one of those assessed in there. So I don't know if that's even recognized by this National Recreation and Parks Association, and that's why it didn't make the list, or maybe somebody should take the time to go through and evaluate what that standard should be for the city of Clawson.
Okay.
So,
Thank you very much.
that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to go through that. We really appreciate the input. Is there anyone else?
Hello.
Hello.
I don't want to be repetitious and go over. He covered pretty much what I was going to talk about. Since I'm here, I'm going to talk about a little bit of items.
Your name and your
Hi,
address?
hi. Hi to the little city with the big heart. My name is Ron Jankowski. I live at 505 East Baker. I've been a Clawson resident for 41 years. I've lived at that address for 38 years. As of 2017, I pay $3,629.51 in taxes. My water bill, on average, is $221. I'm here just to talk basically about some of the proposals, as the other resident had talked about the wish list that was in a survey, about the proposals, basically for the new improvements that is suggested in the survey. The top 5 that is in the action list. And I didn't realize Mr. McKenna and Associate would be here. But it is my opinion that the parks right now are in over and above great shape, above satisfactory for me. I raised a family of 5 children here that went through the system and used all the facilities and amenities in the parks, so on and so forth. Also, I had 3 dogs. Basically, I wanted to talk about the 3 subjects of the top 5 in the survey under the plan, master plan of 2018 through 2022. First one was a splash pad. That gentleman over there covered pretty much what I was going to say. However, as of the Daily Tribune article, Tuesday, February the 1st, the city of Royal Oaks is proposing maybe a splash pad at the Normandy Oaks. And they have recouped about $3 million for the sale of the residential portion of Normandy Oaks. The other portion will be 40-acre park approximately. However, their assessment of an average splash park or pad in this paper is basically over $500,000, with the maintenance and upkeep costs is about $150,000 per year. If Clawson's splash park probably considerably small if it was considered at $150,000. I don't know what a proposal would be for maintenance. Maintenance fees has to deal with water, sanitary, disinfectant, manpower, cost overruns, so on and so forth down the line. I just don't think it's feasible for this city to even entertain a splash park. But that is my opinion. Number 2 on the list was the community pool. I think that's totally out of the question. No city of this size, and I compare it to Berkeley, Madison Heights, Hazel Park, even not necessarily Birmingham, but all the little cities, they don't have any community pools. It'd be extraordinary costs to have one, to even think about it, contemplating, even considering it in a survey. I personally have a splash park. When I had my children raised, it was called a sprinkler and a slip and slide. Simple, done deal. And I could see if the facilities were clean or not. Just most of the time they weren't. It was all muddy, but it was fun. Number 2, I'd like to talk about the dog park. Dog park recommendations is for probably a fenced-in area where dogs can free run in parks. That's already happening. Every park in the city, dogs run loose and/or are supposed to be on a leash. They do it. I've done it. Everybody else does it. Hopefully the homeowners and residents clean them up after themselves. So if we had a dog park that was fenced in, I don't know who would be responsible for cleanup and maintenance. Plus, it takes up green space. We don't have enough green space here in the city parks. So therefore, in my opinion, we don't need a dog park. I have a dog park. It's called my backyard. Number 2, the walking trail. Walking trail consists of, right now, wood chips, and a lot of them, and it's pretty spongy and it's pretty nice. Survey suggests that maybe the residents would like a more friendly user dog park, walking path. I think that's considering of an asphalt type rubber surface where you can walk on and feel a little more comfortable. There's already one existing here in the city park. It's over in the football field. It's called the track. Just walk across the park in the track, walk around. There's your walking surface for people that want to walk on a soft surface. Therefore, my opinion is we don't need a walking park or a pad. As far as the splash pad parks, community pool, dog parks, Oakland County already has those existing facilities really nearby. In Madison Heights, they have a dog park with a small nominal fee. They have a wonderful water park there with a small nominal fee. Troy has an aquatic park. That is, non-residents can also go there for a very, very small fee, $11, and after 5 p.m. it's $8. So therefore, I don't know why residents can't use other municipalities' facilities that are nearby that is available to them. And the reason I'm taking this all in consideration and using my opinions is because I don't like to see any more taxes taken out for new improvements to the city when the city is a little city. As I stated what my taxes are. My pockets are closed or empty. I'm just trying to do what I need to do, just like any other resident. I think some residents don't know that if we're going to have new improvements, it's going to be a large cost to the city and the taxpayers, and the base is probably never will be there because there is no businesses in here that's new to get more tax revenue. In closing, I like to say that I really like this little city with the big heart, but I do believe, in my opinion, the city does not have deep pockets to have these big, pricey, new ticket items for new improvements in the city of Clawson city parks. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks for coming.
Anyone else? Well, then I guess public discussion is closed for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Can I ask, what are next steps then with the master plan?
Kathy?
First, I want to say thank you very much to the residents that came and took the time to share what their concerns were. I do appreciate that very much. The next step is we take what was shared here this evening. I'm going to be talking with the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. We'll make final adjustments to this, taking into consideration what was spoken here tonight. And then what we will probably do at this point then is have it presented at the next council meeting in its final form. We'll get it to you prior to that so you can look at it, and then it will have to be approved at the,
Yeah, it'll need to be approved at your next meeting. It has to be submitted to the DNR by the end of the month. So,
Will that also be posted online as soon as it's available so that the individuals that spoke here and others can go and see
Yeah,
that
we-
what adjustments were made to the master plan
yeah, I think that's the
before we
plan.
vote on it?
Right.
Yeah,
It
we
won't
can
be
do that.
another public hearing necessarily unless you want to continue the public hearing, but you're not required to do another public hearing at that point.
I just want to make sure that it's available for those and
right, so they can take a look at it. Yeah, basically, tomorrow I'll contact the Parks and Rec Advisory Board via email, and we're going to talk about all the things that were brought up at this meeting. And then, once we make our decisions, we'll get those to McKenna. They'll do the final typing and inserting of the information. I will look up the splash pad and the dog park requirements by Parks and Recreation, try to get that included in there for you. And we'll try to address all the things that were brought up tonight and rearrange, what we want to include in this. Okay?
If I could, and I appreciate the gentleman who spoke, both very articulate, and I appreciate your input. I personally would love to see a list that's a little more realistic as far as an action plan.
And I think that's what we talked about last night at the Parks and Rec
Good.
Advisory Board.
Yeah.
I think what I did, and I'll take this on as myself, is, we had to get, we have all these time requirements.
Sure.
We had to get this out for 30 days of public review.
Yeah.
So we took basically what the top 5 were in the survey results and kind of put them in here, and that was our takeoff point. And it's worked well because we've gotten some very good feedback from that, and I think it's really honed in on what we really want to put in here before we submit it.
Yeah, I'd love to see Hunter moved up the list in priority. Maybe picnic table refreshes in the parks. I don't know if that's been looked at either, but and I know again this is late in the game to be talking about this kind of thing, but
But there's still time.
Yeah.
These are all things, and we talked last night, and I said, everything we have in here as far as those projects will change after tonight, and they will, and we can include those things in there. The
appreciate
more
it.
we put in there, it just allows for, if we do apply for grants, they can look back and say, hey, you have that in your plan. Good, we can help support that.
yeah, and I think the ADA would fit nicely
Right.
into that. Yeah.
it seems like when you talk about playground equipment that would be ADA compliant over at Hunter as part of your refresh so that there is new equipment that is ADA compliant.
And we
if
are
that's
applying for
possible.
some grants for Hunter specifically as well. We just are in the process of submitting one for that too. But again, with all grants, there's matching money required, just so you know that.
So basically, all this is a wish list, is what you're
It's-
putting out there.
We're trying to focus on what we want, what we can do, and I think that's what we really kind of are getting through tonight is, yeah, maybe a lot of people want certain things, but what realistically can we
Right.
do? And that's what we'll get into the final
Yeah,
plan.
and
So
more what's
just
the
because
focus?
just because this is in your master plan, doesn't mean to say it's going to happen.
Exactly.
Like I say, it's a wish list.
Well, I'd rather it be a master plan than a master wish list, frankly.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Like I said, moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is consideration of approving the request by Comerico Clawson LLC of 1066 through 1072 West 14 Mile to grant a lot split of lots 12 and 13 of Assessor's Plat Number 5, parcel IDs number 20-33, 354-038, and 20-33, 354, 039, located within the city of Clawson.
So I think Mr. Albus prepared a brief memo and some supporting materials that were in your packet. He asked me to come just in case there were any questions. I'll just kind of briefly explain what's happening. So 1068 is the new home of Noble Appliance, and that land division actually took place already at the point where they recorded the land contract for that property some months ago. And then subsequent to that, they came in with this land division application, which when you look at it, is just kind of moving the line that was established with the land contract over to the east 20 feet. But I think as Jim stated in his memo to you, effectively what you're doing is you're proving that new line that is represented on the survey that was included in your packet. So on this drawing, it would be, I think it's actually beyond the yellow there. I think what happens is that, no, I take that back. It's moving the line to the point where the Noble parcel will now be the yellow part. And what they've done, and then as most of you probably know, then 1060 is about to be the future home of Haberman Fabrics. And so what they've done is, at our request, is prepared a couple of easements that have been reviewed by city attorney as well. In order to make this work properly, they have an ingress, egress, and cross-access easement that will allow both parcels to use the 14-mile road driveway. And then they also have sort of a blanket easement allowing for the maintenance of any utility leads that are on the property, and they do traverse the properties. So one parcel is dependent upon the other for access to the public water and sewer systems. And so those two easements, when they're recorded, and I think Jim recommended that you condition your approval on them being recorded because they have not been yet, those will allow the parcels to function appropriately in this configuration. And so I think we're comfortable with the request as it's been presented to you.
I had a question in regard, so the new Haberman store will be using parking that is currently being used by the old Metro Sports building as well as the stuff behind?
They set up a common area of parking in their shared access agreement. So the bank of parking that you see in the middle between the two buildings, basically, it's a double-loaded bay of parking there. Half of it's on the yellow parcel, half of it's on the blue parcel. They will share all that in the middle. And that allows each of them to have the required amount of parking for their use on their respective sites. Otherwise, Haberman would be a little short on their side if that wasn't so.
I think Mayor Woolley's asking about the parking that's listed there in blue across the street.
Oh, yeah. So that's part of their own property. It's not part of this request as such, but Haberman will own those two parcels, and they use those for parking as well to meet their parking requirements.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I move the request by Comerco Clawson LLC of 1066 through 1072 West 14-Mile Road to grant a lot split of lots 12 and 13 of Assessor's Plat number 5, parcel IDs number 2033354038 and 2033354039 be approved as depicted on the survey and subject to the recording of the utility and cross-access easements as reviewed and approved.
Support?
Mr. Kingsup, have you reviewed the agreement?
Oh, I have. And the predecessor, yes.
And
That's all I'll say.
are you comfortable with this agreement?
Well, I'm comfortable with it because I'm not impacted by it. Those individuals might have some interesting issues, but
What are your
that's
concerns?
between them.
Do you feel comfortable sharing your concerns?
No, it's a very well thought out agreement, and hopefully, there won't be any problems. As you know, this is not. There's a similar concept with the shared parking down further, and if everyone understands what their obligations are, it should work very well. It should work very well. I'm only looking at it from the draftsman standpoint, and I tend to be a little more flexible and liberal than restrictive, so that was more my reaction to it.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Olbrich?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
And the request by Kimco has been granted by the yeas of council. The next item on the agenda is considering of approving the amendments to the 2017-2018 fiscal year budget. And Mr. Pollack, I believe this is your show.
Yeah, we did have some positive amendments with revenues. We received more in our local community stabilization share. That's really our replacement of lost personal property tax revenue since the state agreed to start eliminating some of the personal property tax. It's actually a little bit above budget, and that's all part of a shared agreement through the state. So there's some years we may get more revenue, and fortunately this year we did. The bad news end of amendments are we had a really bad claims 6 months in our health insurance. That's part of the possibility with partially self-insured health care. We had a lot of claims in the last 6 months. As trend would have it, our first 6 months are usually better, so hopefully the news will get better for the first 6 months of this year, which of course comprises our fiscal year. But I put some conservative numbers in the way of budget amendments in each of the funds that are impacted by the claims in hopes that maybe the numbers, when I do the June amendments, will be better. But I'll keep you updated. I think I'd let you know via memo that I'll keep you updated month to month to let you know how those claims are. But after having 2 really, really good years, actually budgeted low and then coming in below budget, we've had about a year and a half now that's been pretty bad as far as claims, and it just happens that way. We've had claims that have been higher than normal. So Cornerstone did warn us that we shouldn't spend all the savings, which we didn't. Things will balance out in time, but the plan itself is still very good. And I think what we'll look at as far as adjustments with healthcare would be the pre-65 retiree coverages that we have. That benefit is very generous, and that might be the one we look at making some adjustments to. But again, we'll inform everyone before we do anything. But all in all, our budgeting has still been pretty solid. Nothing other than the healthcare. Again, I wouldn't really call it a surprise being a big amendment. Everything else seems to be fairly in line, so that there's nothing really that's shocking in the amendments.
In your email, Mark, you talked about that you reduced the stipend amount.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that, please?
Well, we have a contribution. We have a high deductible plan for our active employees. It's $3,000 individual and $6,000 family deductible. And when we made the changes 4 years ago, we decided to have the employees pay more out of pocket or be subject to more out of pocket. And part of our agreement was to pay either directly to the HSA or via a stipend through our hard cap, which is what we're controlled by in Public Act 152. We either give a payment directly to the HSA or a stipend. And this year, the combined amount last year was around $4,500 for a family with a $6,000 exposure, so there's still some out-of-pocket monies there. We dropped that to $3,800 this year. But the employees have been, understanding and good with that because they know from year to year we reopen for health care, so there's going to be adjustments up or down. And we did have to cut that back. And again, I think the employees understand it's going to happen that way sometimes. We bumped it up a little bit the first 2 years, and we had to cut it back this year. So that amount went from, like I said, I think, and that's family, and then the individual amount, and Mike may recall, I don't remember, but it's about half of that, a little less than half of that. So we did drop the payments that the city contributes toward the HSA.
Is that part of contract negotiations, or is that just a...
Yeah, it's we have a healthcare reopener. We're negotiating new contracts now because they expire in June. But all 3 unions agreed to reopen healthcare on an annual basis for this reason, because with self-insured, there's going to be good years and there's going to be bad years, and we wanted that flexibility so that we could adjust up or down the amounts that we pay, and it's worked really well so far. And then same thing with wages. We may suggest the same thing again this year. It's just to look. If we have a good year, we can adjust up. If we have a bad year, we can adjust down.
Any other questions for Mark?
Mayor, I move the amendments to the 2017-2018 fiscal year budget be approved as listed.
Support.
I guess we've discussed it enough, and roll call, please.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Olbrich?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
The 2017 budget amendment request has been approved. The next item on the agenda is consideration of approving the renewal of the Water Residential Assistance Program, or RAP, memorandum of agreement between Oakland, Livingston Human Services, and the City of Clawson. And the RAP program is a program that individuals can apply for if they need some assistance with their water bills. And we've participated with it the past couple of years, and I'm not sure if we know if anybody's used it, but it's certainly something that if you are in need, you should reach out. Why, Mike, is there, I didn't see it on the website,
What's that?
the RAP program and information, and can we get that up on the site so our residents can,
Of course.
assuming it passes, that we're going to continue our agreement?
If passed, it'll be up tomorrow.
Your Honor, I move the renewal of the Water Residential Assistant Program, RAP Memorandum of Agreement between Oakland Livingston Human Services and the City of Clawson be approved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Olbrich?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
And the agreement continues. Thanks, Mike. The next item on the agenda is consideration of appointing a City of Clawson delegate to the SEMCOG General Assembly. There's currently a vacancy on the assembly, and it's important to have an official representative to be designated as the delegate from the City of Clawson. The delegate must be an elected official from the city. Who was our delegate in the past?
It was the mayor.
It was Mayor.
Yeah, it was Penny.
I left it blank in case.
Somebody else would like to do that? Okay, well.
Is the mayor up for this?
Well, would anybody else like to volunteer? If nobody else would
I
like to volunteer.
provided a list of the dates of the meetings that are coming up, I believe.
How did I miss that?
It's at the end of the attachment.
Generally, when are they?
There's one on Thursday, March 22nd, and one on Thursday, June 28th.
Days or evenings?
Is it listed? Wow, they do not provide the time.
Apparently, it's all day. I don't know.
All day.
Mr. Pollock, have you attended these meetings?
I have not. It has to be an elected official is why, to be a delegate. I could go, but I can't be the delegate.
You could serve as an alternate, apparently.
Well, I guess I'm in.
Madam Mayor, I move the appointment of Mayor Deborah Woolley as the City of Clawson delegate to the SEMCOG General Assembly be approved.
Support.
Any
And Mayor,
questions about that?
If you can attend, I'd be happy to attend as alternate and bring back information. I just won't be able to vote, but
Excellent. Thank you very much for stepping up.
Who supported? Okay, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Olbrich?
Yes.
The next item is consideration of a request by the Clawson Farmers Market to use the Clawson City Park for the 2018 Clawson Farmers Market season. It will be starting on May 20th and ending on September 23rd. Operating every Sunday except Labor Day weekend with the hours of 9 to 1 p.m., 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's the recommendation that we approve this request to have the market season at the city park.
Your Honor, I move the request by the Clawson Farmers Market to use the city park for the 2018 Clawson Farmers Market season be approved.
Support.
Any questions, comments, except great fresh vegetables and fruits over there in those days? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Olberg?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes. And the request is granted. The next item is consideration of the request to hold the employee volunteer picnic at the Clawson City Park. I assume we need to depict if we wanted a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Correct.
In the past, it's been a Wednesday. The problem with Wednesday is that the library has to close early so that their members can attend. If we do it on Thursday, they already close early. So is there any opinion on if we would like to switch it to Thursday, or we want to maintain the Wednesday?
Thursday, of course.
Thursday works for everybody?
Thursday's great.
Okay. Thursday it is.
Okay. Thursday, June 14th?
Your Honor, I move the request by the, what am I doing? Sorry. Mayor, I move that the request to host the employee volunteer picnic at the Clawson City Park on Thursday, June 14th at 5 p.m. be approved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Olberg?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Next item is our list of bills.
Madam Mayor, pay the bills.
Support.
Are there any questions on the bills? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Olberg?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is the city attorney's report.
No report other than to request motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel matters and legal advice related thereto.
Do we need to vote on that?
At the end, you can vote.
That's
on
what I say next. Okay, thank you very much. City manager's report.
A couple of updates. I should have a updated financial plan for our pension obligation bonds to council this week. Things are going well. We're still in the referendum period, but I believe I sent out the updated calendar to everyone. I'll resend that just in case. But things are proceeding, and it looks like if everything works out okay, the bonds would be sold in May. So timing-wise, that'll work out well for the fiscal year. The Sakura Recycling Drop-Off Center is now open back Monday through Friday. I think, did I send you, Mike, the information? Okay. We'll get it on the website, and they're going back to normal hours rather than the Saturday. And I know they were overwhelmed because they had a lot of residents that were hoarding their recycling. So they did have a lot of people come through, but they're going to start advertising on Sakura as well to get, they've made some logistical changes at the site on Coolidge to try and make it easier for people to flow through and drop off their recycling. But again, it continues to be, the numbers continue to go up with the carts. And there are plans to start really pushing both commercial recycling and then more for residential. And you know, I think with assistance of volunteers, we're going to get more information out to Sakura communities for recycling. So I know it's exciting for all of them because the upgrades to that facility, I think they're probably just now starting to offer tours again to residents, and I think the schools will be back in. So it's great to have that facility open again. And like I said, it's state-of-the-art single stream. So it's going to be, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm really looking forward to seeing it in action. So And like I say, I think they'll offer opportunities as well. If councils wish to go, they may group or go community by community, but if you have an opportunity, I would recommend you go take a look. That's all I have.
Mark, are they going to set up more through the community or more through our businesses?
Yes.
Or,
And I did get word that Clawson Steakhouse does have a recycling cart, maybe two, but they do. They did finally get that taken care of.
thank you.
Excellent. Is that it? Okay. Any unfinished business? Okay. On to new business. Tomorrow, assuming that school isn't closed, the Clawson Senior All-Night Party will sponsor a Quarter Mania fundraiser, and that's tomorrow at Trojan Hall. And you bring your quarters and buy some paddles and bid on different items that 17 different vendors will be coming to. I hear that it's a lot of fun. I've never been before, but I hear it's a great time. I know that on Friday, the Optimists are sponsoring their next euchre tournament over at Shields. It's $25, and that includes dinner. Where'd my pile go? There's a spring Chamber of Commerce meeting. That's an auction fundraiser that's coming up in March. The annual Police Department Bowl-O-Rama for scholarships is March 3rd, and the registration is due on February 23rd. I think that was all I had. Anyone else? Okay, well, the floor is now open for public discussion. So please come up and state your name and your address.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity. My name's Tim Quinn. I live over on Selfridge. The reason I'm here tonight, I just recently found out from my neighbors that the city has a desire to issue and sell bonds to help with the underfunded pension. I'm not here to argue pensions for or against, but I am here. I'm a little disappointed. When I looked into this, I couldn't find any details as how this impacts the citizens. What's it going to cost us? I understand we've made obligations, we've made commitments, so be it. But we just had an election in November. Why wasn't this issue put on the ballot at that time? And you're only giving us 45 days to garner enough signatures to put it on the ballot. Can somebody answer me that?
Yeah, it's through the state of Michigan and the Treasury, there is an option, I don't recall the Public Act off the top of my head, but that allows us to petition the state treasurer for the ability to sell pension obligation bonds. This will actually save the residents money because we're actually going to borrow money at a rate and pay it back over 15 years less than what we'll earn when we fully fund the pension. Mm-hmm. So right now the estimated amount is about 15.2 million. And what we'll be doing, right now we pay the pension obligations through our regular millage, our standard operating millage. The payments themselves over the 15 years will actually be lower by, I think the estimate's somewhere near $3 million. Mm-hmm. So it won't cost you anything. It'll actually save you money as a resident as far as taxes go because we won't have to levy as much tax to make the payments.
Okay.
So for us it made sense because we closed our defined benefit pension to new hires in 99 and 2004. And the state treasury wanted to come up with an option for communities to fund their pension. We're in a position right now where we're accelerating our funding through MERS because we're closed to new hires. They have a formula that decreases the amortization period it started at 2 years every year. So our payments were accelerating and we got to a point where we couldn't afford the accelerated payments to get to 100% funded. By bonding, we'll now be able to fully fund the pension, and then our repayments over the 15 years are actually going to be lower than what we would have had to pay had we accelerated the funding.
I guess my point is, I feel like we're somewhat restricted as citizens to garner enough signatures in a short period of time. I just found out about this last week. So 45 days, when this took years and years and years to get to this point. I guess my next question is, what are we doing now? I don't know where, people whose pensions are affected, who has pensions. But what are we doing so that this doesn't happen again? Because ultimately, it's costing money.
Yeah, what we're doing is we close to new hires. There's the
Okay.
defined benefit pension plan now has 12 active employees.
Okay.
Whereas the defined contribution, what we wanted to do as a community, and it started before I got here even, was eliminate those legacy costs. And what the city did years ago is all of the defined benefit pension members were then closed to new hires. So our contribution for employees, there's 12 and we have 45, 46 full-time employees. So those other 33 people now are under the defined contribution plan, which means we're contributing while they work, but as soon as they retire, our obligation ends. And then we did the same thing with healthcare. We're contributing while they work, and that started in 2004 and in '99 as well with the unions. We're contributing while they work, and then as soon as they're retired, we no longer have that obligation. So what we're doing now is fully funding what we have in place, and it'll take the burden off. In 15 years, that will be paid, and then our legacy costs in effect for the pension will end. So therefore, when, for example, myself, I came in after the change was made, I have a defined contribution pension. So the city's contributing while I work, but as soon as I stop working here, there's no longer any obligation.
Okay. And let me be clear.
Okay.
I'm not for or against. I have family members that are on pensions. I just felt that if you offered the citizens an opportunity,
Right.
so if they did garner enough signatures, what happens at that point?
Well, we would, more than likely, I would ask council to put it on a ballot and then let the voters vote. Because again, in the end, it saves taxpayers money to bond.
Okay, and I appreciate that, but I still think as a citizen, I should have the opportunity to vote, as with the rest of my fellow citizens.
Right.
We just had an election. Why wasn't this put on? This didn't just happen overnight.
Well,
That's my point.
I guess one of the things, this is not an additional tax that is going to be, you're going to incur at all. It's not going to affect what you're currently paying. And as a council, we were faced with the fact that the accelerated payments that they were requiring to make, we weren't going to have enough money to run the city. And we're backed into a corner that we didn't have any options left on how we were going to fund this. And in a way, it was last minute, because what ended up happening at the end of the year, we'd been talking about doing this, and we're kind of looking into it, and the state legislature in December decided to essentially end the program in December 31st. And so there was a scramble because we were not ready to, issue it on the end of December. But the state legislature was thinking about doing that and making an early sunset to it. So we, have been getting our ducks in a row and getting the information together. Just recently had the presentation in regard to it. So it's been kind of in the works, but not on the fast track till the state legislature was going to change it.
And if I could, just a couple things, and stop me at any point if I am wrong. But my first question, Mr. Pollack, is what year did we close the pension to new hires?
Non-union and the AFSCME union, which is basically our DPW and clerical employees, closed in '99. And then the police agreed in 2004.
So we've been closed, Mr. Quinn, for quite a while to new hires. So I think that's one important point to make, is that we are actively pursuing putting to bed these legacy costs. As the entire Detroit area knows, these legacy costs can really harm an organization. Something else that I'd like to point out is that the pension obligation bonds are one of the few bonds that a municipality can undertake without putting before the voters. And I believe most bonds have to go before the voters by state law, if I'm not mistaken. Pension obligation bonds, according to the state treasurer, and they have a committee that reviews those bonds, they believe that they're in the best interest of the municipality. And most bonds require an extra millage. So as this does not, and again, it saves money, it was in the view of this board that it was a fiscally responsible decision. And I understand your concern, and I appreciate that. 45 days is the required referendum period.
Seems like a short period of time,
I
when this took
I can
probably
appreciate
20
that.
years.
I
so.
can appreciate that.
That was
and
my
just as a
point.
frame of reference, the city of Royal Oak recently acquired $154 million in pension bonds, if I'm not mistaken. So our $15 million pension bond is a mere pittance.
Okay. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public discussion is now closed.
Madam Mayor, before we go, I'd like to thank our DPW, the fire department, police department for everything they've done in this crappy weather. And I know we're going to have some nasty weather again tonight, so thanks, guys.
And I will mention, we're facing a salt shortage. We've just about reached our under the mitten bid, our quota for the year. And I know Doug was on the phone trying to call sources, but everybody's in that same boat. So he is gonna mix sand with the salt to try and stretch it a little bit more. There may be some intersections. We try and salt all the stop sign intersections to avoid accidents, but we may run low enough to where the stop signs to main streets will definitely be salted. But some of the interior intersections may not be because we're running low. So just so you know, it's normally we get through a year without any problems, and we've just about hit our quota, and we should be okay for these next, couple of snows. But I know Doug was worried and calling around today to see if we could get salt, and it's very difficult because every community's in the same position we are.
Okay. So at this time, we're looking to go into closed session, and what that means is council's going to meet with legal counsel in private, and we will, after we're finished there, we will come outside here and adjourn for the evening.
Madam Mayor, we move into closed session.
Sport.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
There.